And then, of course, it was about the fans as well. So many fans here, well over 10,000 Gamecock fans, so many making the trip to New York. Obviously, there was one fan you saw on TV plenty today, the guy who was crying at the end of the game. It meant so much to him. The former frontman of Hootie and the Blowfish, well, I guess current frontman, but he's also now the country singer, Charleston's own Darius Rucker. No bigger South Carolina fan than him. The guy plays on stage every single night wearing a Gamecocks hat. Today, he brought his son Jack up from Mount Pleasant and was sitting in the first row. I caught up with him at center court, Madison Square Garden, right after the game. No bigger South Carolina fan than Charleston's own Darius Rucker. D, you're crying.
Man, I mean, this is crazy. You know, Coach Martin did such an amazing job in the last 5 years that he's been here, and to me, going to the Final Four. We're going to the Final Four, man. You know, I'm sitting over there and with Mark and Patrick Davis, and we're watching the Gamecocks in Madison Square Garden with a chance to go to the Final Four. You know, and here we are winning this game. A game like this that really could have gone either way, man. This is awesome.
I mean, I've known you for a long time, and you've known the Gamecocks a lot longer than that. Is this the biggest pinnacle moment?
You know, the baseball national championships were pretty awesome, you know, but to be here right now, a 7 seed going to the Final Four, you know, not with these kids don't have the attitude we're going. They have the attitude they're going to win it, and I love that.
Darius, I know you're going to enjoy this night in the Big Apple. Have a safe trip back to Charleston. Darius Rucker here at Madison Square Garden on the Gamecocks' big victory. So we will talk much, much more in sports about this. We talked to plenty of players in the locker room. It was a feeling of elation and jubilation in the locker room, a lot of tears. And the thing that stuck out to me most, I've never seen it at South Carolina. A lot of years at that school, guys with the little piece of net hanging around their hat. Unbelievable to see. They got to cut down the nets here. Obviously, there is another set of nets in Glendale, Arizona that they really want to be cutting down. Much more on that coming up later on in sports. Now, Lindsay Maloney will join us live. She is talking fan reaction back in the Low Country.
Scotty?
Hey, what's up, Dino? Yeah, good to be here in New Orleans. Good to be in Louisiana. I'll tell you what, a couple of years ago, we were in Shreveport. I think New Orleans a little better representation of the state of Louisiana. It is wild here. All I can say, wild. We were on Bourbon Street at 1 o'clock this afternoon. It was wild. I don't even want to know what it's going to look like on New Year's Eve night. We did talk plenty of football today. We talked to Kelly Bryant and Travis Etienne, a Louisiana native. We talked to Hunter Renfrow. We will hear from them in sports at 6 o'clock. But hey, we're in New Orleans. We got to get a guided tour. And who better to do it than a gator? It's quite easy to find gators in Louisiana. We found a different type of gator, if you will. Now, Clyde, where did you go to high school?
Well, I went to Goose Creek High in Charleston, South Carolina. I lived in Mineral Park. My dad was stationed in the military out there. So we used to always go by the Citadel, but my dad was stationed there. I got my first kiss in that library over there in Goose Creek.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I used to live in Pensacola. From there, I went to Charleston. And Charleston, I love Charleston, South Carolina. It's like New Orleans almost. You know?
So now living in New Orleans, what do you recommend? What is there to do? What should Clemson fans do here in New Orleans?
You know what? Win.
Win. Sure, that certainly helps.
You know what, though? I tell you, just enjoy yourself because this is a melting pot. You know, and there's a variety of things to do. You know, a plethora of clubs and bars, and you know, there's the Harris Casino right there. And I'll tell you one thing: if you win, because they'll let you win, but you got to get out. You know? You're really not a winner until you get out of the casino. Then they got the wonderful beignets where you guys are going to Cafe Du Monde over here. You got the French Quarters. You know, you got Commando Palace, which is a great restaurant to eat at. You got actually there's a little right over here by the water. You can take the ferry across to Algiers, which is another like historical area as well. So it's a wonderful things to do in New Orleans. And you know, everybody parties. They party for, no matter what they're partying for. Like if a snail crossed the street, you see it, they go dun 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 dun. So they're partying no matter what.
All right, final question for you. What should I eat that's not going to blow my brains out with heat? Because I can handle heat, but I don't need to be sweating hot. What is the iconic dish?
Let me tell you something. What I like, I mean, obviously gumbo is good, but what I do, there's a place called Oceana's on Bourbon Street. where you want to go.
All right.
Bourbon Street and Conte. It's a nice seafood place. I eat the blackened catfish, and the blackened catfish actually has like sautéed crawfish on it. Oh, I had a vision. I'm sorry, guys. I had a flashback on how good it was. So I'm so discombobulated by that taste of that food. So I can just tell you right now, enjoy New Orleans, have a good time, and Clemson, go get them, baby.
The man right there. I'll tell you what, Dino, Nick Saban often is quite boring to listen to in press conferences. If he's boring tomorrow morning, I'm just replacing him with Clyde. I'm going to have Clyde talk about Alabama. I'm sure he could make it up and do pretty well. And, I got a cell phone number, so, maybe I'll call him tonight, have an adult beverage out on Bourbon Street. He'd be an outstanding tour guide, but he is a proud Goose Creek Gator. He did bring that up several times. So if you're here in town and your Uber says Clyde, you hit the jackpot. Sports, oh yeah, we're going to talk about that as well, certainly, coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. For now, live in the Big Easy, New Orleans, Scott Eisberg, I'll send it back to you.
Scotty, I have a question for you.
Here we go.
Do you really need a tour guide of Bourbon Street? I mean, use your eyes,
sure.
My son. Just use your eyes. You'll be fine.
My wife told me to put the blinders on. Put the blinders on. Nothing happens with beads on Bourbon Street. She said, you're a father of 2 kids now. There is nothing happening. You got to be in bed right after your late live shot. I said, maybe I'll have some gumbo at the hotel, and that's it. There will be no Bourbon Street later, I promise.
The beaded ladies love nothing more than a father of 2 kids. Thank you, Scotty. See you back in sports.
From our nation's capital with more. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, good evening, Dean and Ashley. What a day for the Clemson Tigers, but a day they earned. As Dabo Swinney said to us on the Capitol steps afterwards, they don't bring the runners up here to Washington. You got to win the big game, and that's exactly what Clemson did. And today, just 6 months later, they get to reap the rewards. They get to go and eat with the president. They get to talk with the commander-in-chief. They get to do all the things they saw in TV and in movies and everything that goes around. There is such a tradition around this ceremony, and Clemson got to live it today. Let's take a look at what happened out there. The Clemson Tigers handing those jerseys to Donald Trump and his son Barron. They are now #1 on the Clemson roster with those orange and white uniforms that Clemson always wears. The Tigers certainly earned this one. It is their second time at the White House. They came back in the 80s with Danny Ford and crew to visit Ronald Reagan, but that, a group of about 8. This, a whole lot more, about 100 Clemson Tiger fans, faithful coaches and players take the charter up from Greenville this morning. They meet on the south lawn of the White House and then spoke to us afterwards at the Capitol before their tour of the Rotunda. What a day for this group, including guys like co-offensive coordinator Tony Elliott, who came from humble beginnings on James Island and now gets to live something like this.
You gave America an incredible game that will go down in the record books as one of the hardest fought and probably one of the most exciting games ever played. Last second, boom. That's pretty good, Coach. Good job, Coach.
For a kid from James Island to go meet the president at the White House, what's that like for you?
Well, it's a dream come true. A little bit surreal. Really hadn't sunk in yet, but having an opportunity to just see the Capitol. Hadn't been here since I was in high school, and really the tradition behind it, and one last opportunity to celebrate our team was pretty cool. No doubt I was scared to touch anything inside the White House, and I think when you get the basic tour, you don't get to go in some of the rooms, and just the history to go down in the library and just be in the White House is pretty cool. Not a lot of people get that opportunity, and then the reason why we're here to celebrate these young men and the accomplishment that they had on the field was really neat.
So talk about humble starts. Tony Elliott called the game-winning play in the national championship game along with Jeff Scott, the guy who caught that touchdown, Hunter Renfrow, a former walk-on. That little former walk-on, 5'7", called up to the front today by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He said, kid, pretty good thing you didn't drop that pass. Obviously, he didn't, and they are here today in Washington, D.C. Much more, including a soundbite from Dabo Swinney coming up later on in sports. But for now, live in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., I'm Scott Eisberg, Sports 4.
Their lives.
Wrapping her head around getting married anywhere but McClellanville, impossible for Jessica Kennedy McClellan.
very important. You know, this is my hometown. It's where I grew up.
Now living in New York, the nostalgia of her waterfront property, the salt in the air, the boats in the distance, the picture-perfect, serene setting for a laid-back southern soiree. Unless, of course, a hurricane is barreling in.
When we heard on Tuesday, I think someone on the news said it would be here 2 p.m. on Saturday. That was their current prediction, and that was the exact time and date of our original ceremony. And I just went and took a nap. I said I'm gonna lay down for a second. And when I woke up, the sun was shining through my window, and it was so beautiful. And I just thought to myself, let's just get married before it comes. Let's just get married on Thursday. So we started putting that plan into motion to see if it could happen, and I think it's going to turn out really nice.
Plans are one thing, execution a whole nother story.
First person I called was the officiant, and she said, great, let's do it, I'll be there. And then the next person I called was our MC, and his response, he's an old friend of mine, and he texted me, hell yeah. So that was good to go as well. And then I asked the lady who is baking our cake if she could have it ready by today, and she said yes as well.
Amazing how months of planning can be changed in a day, but memories made by those who surround you and where you make them. For this bride, it's all she ever wanted.
I'm just overwhelmed with how everyone pulled it together and was just so willing to be here for us. It really makes you know how lucky you are that we have these families who support us and friends who driving into a hurricane warning area, it means a lot, and I just feel so loved.
Of course, once they walk down the aisle and exchange their vows, the ceremony finished, the party begins. There is one more change that might have to be made for this wedding. Changing the wedding song, is it going to be like Purple Rain or Rock You Like a Hurricane or anything like that?
We really should. It's definitely added to the playlist, so.
Probably also involved. Scotty, what are you seeing downtown right now?
Dino, it's still very, very quiet here in Marion Square. Really nothing going on at all in Marion Square. You can probably see over my shoulder one cop car that seems to be blocking traffic right there on Meeting Street. They're not letting anybody get to that intersection of Meeting and Calhoun Street, basically right by the TD Arena where the College of Charleston plays basketball. It's one of those eerie feelings down here, to tell you the truth, and it just kind of dawned on me. I think people are watching social media, people are watching television, and they're realizing that this guy is still out there on the loose, and they're staying inside, which makes it a very eerie, odd feeling down here in Marion Square. I can tell you the police helicopter is the most noticeable thing because it has hovered over and over again with that blaring spotlight coming right down where we're standing. It just makes it an eerie feeling to be down here, a bit of an unsettled feeling. It's one of those nights where you just want to be inside and not outside because you just don't know what's going on, where this person is. Obviously, the police are still looking for him. What I see right here in Marion Square is really what you see behind me. Very, very little. One police car there on Meeting Street. When I got here, I'd say 35 to 40 minutes ago, that Shell station, the Circle K on the corner of Calhoun and Meeting, was just blaring with police, with ambulance, plenty of emergency personnel. We're all at that Shell station. I can tell you, in the past 35 minutes or so, they've all cleared out. It's really a quiet scene over at the Shell gas station. There's the one police officer there, and there was one police officer that blocked off traffic on the corner of Calhoun and King Street over by the new Walgreens. That police officer has since left. Traffic is moving freely on King Street. It's moving freely on Calhoun Street. Really, the only place where traffic seems to be blocked right now is on Meeting Street, heading from the bridge towards the Battery, going into that intersection of Calhoun and Meeting Street. You can hear it again right above me. The police helicopter with the big spotlight is just hovering over and over again. So obviously, the police are concentrating on a pretty small area, it seems, right here in downtown. They don't seem to be going very far, really, from East Bay Street. I don't know if you could see the helicopter behind me, but it's making a left-hand turn right as it hits the harbor on East Bay Street, and it's really just circling around a 6 or 7 block area in a circle. If I'm standing here in Marion Square, we're seeing this police helicopter over and over again, probably once a minute. So it's not covering a very large amount of area here in downtown Charleston. So like I said, kind of an eerie feeling. Since we've been here in Marion Square, we've only seen one person even walk by. On a normal night in Marion Square, there are people walking around. This is a pretty populated area. There are plenty of restaurants, plenty of bars, and of course the College of Charleston right next door. Usually there are certainly people just hanging around Marion Square. Tonight it is very eerily quiet, is the best way I can describe it. Not much activity at all going on. I think people are certainly adhering to social media and television warnings to stay inside, and that's certainly a good thing for them. For now, we'll send it back to you, and of course, if we see anything or hear anything, we'll let you know as soon as we can online, on social media, and certainly on TV as well.